Hey everybody, Ramey here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about time compression and increasing the speeds of our audio and video and stuff like that. So I was just interviewed for about this, and that's been multiple times. I've been interviewed about this topic over the years. I think it's a really cool, interesting topic, and I think there's a lot more that can be done in the research about it, which is why I'm talking about it again. So I wanted to talk about it this week. I know I've been talking a lot about like the blue light stuff, and I've been really into that. That's a really exciting thing that I've been talking about lately and experimenting with, and I do have some updates on that. I'm not going to talk about them in the video. This video, I'll talk about them when I update my blue light stuff on end of my 30-day challenge, week 3 on Monday. All right, so today I want to talk about time compression because with Netflix doing it and everyone listening to podcasts all the time and stuff, it's a really, really, really cool topic. So first of all, and I know I've talked about time compression before, but I still just want to iterate for those new watching this video. So time compression really started in like the 1960s and 70s. We finally had like the technology to increase the speed of sound without taking away the quality. Like if any of you ever listened to like a record or like a tape or like forwarded through like a video really, really fast, you hear like this like really high pitch. It's called like the chipmunk-like effect that you have when you speed up audio really fast. So what this technology allowed us to do was to actually, instead of having that effect, we actually there's an algorithm that cuts space in between the words to make them basically like closer together in time so that it sounds normal. Kind of a cool technology, but not something that was like convenient for most home users to have until things like Audacity and a bunch of other free programs came out. Then all of a sudden, we were able to do this stuff all the time. So we, are able to, with Audacity, able to create any video time compressed. And with like Apple's podcasting feature, you can just play something at like 2.25 times or 1.5 times or 2.0 times quicker than what it is. And 2.0 times means it's half as fast. So you start thinking about like time savings here. And if I'm listening to like a 15-minute podcast, I have made it 7.5 minutes. And that means I can fit more time and more things into my day, which is really cool. So let's talk about like, what does the research say about learning through time compression? And I'm the researcher who's done the research. Now, some of my colleagues have done some of it. I've worked with them and done some great research with them as well. So it's not like my research, but I've done a number of studies on this, and I'm one of the people that have done the research studies on this topic, so I know about it. So basically what we found, now what we tested in most of our things, what we tested is we wanted to look at basically if I sped something up, how much could I speed it up before people stopped listening? And what happens when you started to add like text, animation, and video into this compression? What happened? What happened for learning? And also, in addition to that, like, do people enjoy this? And what speeds do people prefer? So maybe before I even talk about what that research said, let me say this. You have listened to time compressed speech and stuff, time compressed media before. Every time you watch TV or the radio, they compress it just a little bit. Why do they do that? Well, let me put it this way. If I speed up a song on the radio 5%, now, the difference between 0 and 5% is you can't really tell the difference. You can like listen to both of them, you're not going to know the difference. So 5% means they can fit in 5% more commercials in the day because they sped everything up. So you start talking about like not just time savings, but like money savings for a radio station is huge. So they're doing this all the time as much as they can. Which is why someone like radio is doing this. Okay, so then let's talk about TV. So it's a little different when you start trying to compress audio or video. Because what happens is when you want it to sound correctly, you have to actually, as I said, the algorithm is cutting space out. So you have to start like cutting the video. So how do you do this? What is it like? So the algorithm's slightly different when you're cutting video, because if you did it exactly the same, you would actually be taking out parts of the film. So you have to actually, when I say the algorithm is a little different, you're actually going to get a little more of the high pitched voice. It's like almost like a cross between that high pitched voice and cutting stuff out. They like married them in the middle. But you also can't watch it as fast as you can listen. So let's talk about what the research says about this stuff. So first of all, we know that we read at about like 200 some words, like 250, 275, 300 words per minute. You know, and obviously every person's different, but on average, the population reads at about that speed. We talk at about 150 words per minute. So we talk at 150 words per minute. The thing is, the way we like do things in our head, like the way we think, what's happening in our working memory, we actually process verbal speech and reading exactly the same way. So what that tells us is that theoretically, we should be able to listen just as fast as we can read. And we know that reading at like a normal adult reading speed, we can learn. I mean, that's what we do. So there's no reason that we can't speed up speech to that speed that we shouldn't also be able to learn just as well. So that was kind of the whole big theory behind time compression. That's kind of where they came up with the idea. That's kind of like the theoretical framework behind it. So basically, so yeah, that's, I mean, so if I have to go in and tell you what we found that, yeah, people can learn, absolutely. They can learn difficult material. Obviously, in a lot of the research studies, we've only tested material up to like 15, 20 minutes in time, so in length, like duration. Like I haven't tested an hour-long video, but at the same time, you have to remember, if I'm talking about like best practices for learning, people in their working memory can only hold like, a few concepts in their head at one time anyway. So the thing is, even if I was doing like an hour-long piece of material or content, I know people are going to forget stuff anyway because that's it's information overload. I'm overloading their working memory. I like to explain that like our memory is like a glass, and you can fill it up so much and then it starts overflowing. Like we need time to process, we need time to learn. So this 20-minute duration is about all our mind can take anyway, if I'm trying to get everyone to learn every single piece of content that I'm saying. Now, we talk about like doing something for entertainment, like a podcast or a video. I don't necessarily need to learn or know every single thing they're saying. Like when I read a book for fun or I'm listening to a podcast, I need to know like the basic. I want the plot and like the basic information, and I can like pick and choose what my mind selects that I put in long-term memory. But like if I'm watching a movie, I don't need to know like what clothes. I don't need to remember like what they're wearing and the exact quotes they're saying. I just need to know the plot and to be entertained. So I can probably watch it a little quicker. But the thing that's going to happen with Netflix and video in particular is that, this is a piece of art. Like a movie is a piece of art. So like, I said this in one of my interviews. I said, would like certain quotes from movies be just as popular if like we heard them sped up to, because maybe it was the speed that really helped us make the quote, like the way they paused before they said it, or the way it was said. But sped up, is it going to have the same effect? Same thing with like scary movies. Like if The Shining is a scary movie. If the first time in my life I ever watched The Shining, I was watching it at 1.5 times the speed, would it have been as scary? I can't answer that question, but like those are like really interesting questions that we're gonna have to ask ourselves when we watch something. Now, like a documentary, I don't think. No, I'm gonna watch a documentary sped up. There is no like, I'm watching a documentary. I want the information. In fact, I think a lot of these documentaries are drawn out, boring, to give me like the basic facts anyways. They can fit it in an hour, or like that Making a Murder, which was like how long? Like 10 episodes? That took me forever. So like, I would have loved to listen to that sped up. So I think that's where like the audience is, and I think there's definitely a market for it, and I'm really excited. So more about what the research, what we found. We found people can learn through this. We found that people can learn through pictures and animation that's compressed. Time compressed. We just have to be careful about how much we compress video because we don't want to like cut too many pictures out to make it so that it doesn't make sense. As far as speeds, so like I did a study comparing like what speeds do people prefer basically what we found is that people prefer around like 10 to 25% compression, which is like a 1.5 to like, 1.1 to 1.25 compression. So that's like what people prefer. That's what they enjoy the most. And then we have like the 1.5 where we start, 1.5 is the max, where after 1.5, learning starts to fall off significantly. So if we have, and I know someone's going to say, but I listen to my podcast at 2.0. I'm talking about, in general, the population, their memory at 1.5 starts to go like that. That's what happens. And additionally, you have to remember, like, we're talking about averages here. So if someone talks very, very slow, listening to their podcast at 2.0 times might be completely fine versus someone who speaks at a normal speed. So people usually speak around like 175 words per minute. If someone's speaking at that average word, length, then it's going to be normal. And someone might be a little faster. They might talk like really, 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 really fast. I can't do that well. That's terrible. But if someone's talking really, really, really fast, you might have to slow them down a little bit. So that's why the ability for the user to control it is awesome. Now, one of the things that I think the research needs to start examining, I think we need to look at more at video and what's happening, especially with some of the new algorithms I'm seeing that aren't trying to cut out the video. Like, I'm really curious to see what Netflix does with this, because I haven't like tested their stuff out yet, how that's going to really work and read enough about it. But I want to see like what is their algorithm? How are they doing this without trying to cut out portions of the video, because they need that different algorithm than the audio is using, than the podcasts are using. So I'm curious to see that. I think we're going to need research on that. I think we need research on like what happens when we actually slow down text. It's like something I never asked, and I just didn't see it in the research. Like we always talked about speeding it up, but like we never looked at the other direction. Like what happens when you slow it down? We just look at like, speed up, faster, more, faster, time savings. Does comprehension go up when we slow it down? It'd be very interesting to find out. We know normal and sped up is about the same, up to what's 1.5 times. What happens when we slow it down? I'd just be curious to see a study on it. I think it would be interesting. And I think we need to do the video stuff. I also am very curious, like how does this stuff affect people who are like English is their second language, like language learners, especially as they're learning a language, and people who just speak a different language. Because if you're in America, you know that there's lots of people who English is not their first language. So it's very interesting to get how does this impact them. I think that's another research. So there's a bunch of different research questions out there. I think this topic is really cool. I'm glad to see like an interest of it in the media by other people. So anyway, that's it for today. Just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that just because I just did another interview on it. I think the topic's really cool. I think there's a lot to go with it, and I'm excited to see it. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.